Howdy, everyone. So today we're actually going to touch on a few things. I realized that on my YouTube series, I have not introduced the Mitre attack framework or the different types of frameworks for an attack chain. And so it's something that I need to touch on first before I proceed with uh, the rest of the content that I have for you guys. And I do have some things that I've been working on to kind of help present these things. So starting off with the Mitre attack framework, it's a pretty easy one to follow. I really like it because it it's not in any specific order. It doesn't read necessarily left to right, and it gives you a lot of additional in-depth information and not just how the process of an attack might work. I do also reference the Lockheed Martin cyber kill chain sometimes because it kind of gives you an order of operations, if you will. This is great for explaining to people as well, kind of what they might see in steps from 1 through 7. Um, and it is kind of important for the simple fact that people may need to understand where to look next in order of operations because that's just how sometimes their brain works. But overall, both are really really great. Mitre attack framework is kind of one that I emphasize on only because of the amount of information that you can learn from this this resource page. So free website, anybody can go to the Mitre attack framework, attack.mitre.org, and you can kind of start to do research on it. You have all these tactics at the top, and then you have all the techniques. And then if you want, you can even have all the sub techniques. And there's a lot. It can be overwhelming at times. So just be aware. But they kind of are similar. So if you notice, we have reconnaissance here. You have reconnaissance there. Weaponization. This is gonna be like when you're creating that uh, tool or the payload, the malware, kind of similar to like resource development. If you look at delivery, right, you're going to send somebody via an email, USB, web, whatever that might be. Initial access is you're trying to get to, right? Is you're trying to get your initial access. Then you have exploitation and installer and malware on the asset. That's going to be very similar to execution, as well as persistence and privilege escalation and some of the other steps. Then you have your command and control, which is going to be over here, command and control. And then finally, you have your actions on objectives, which can be depending on what you want to do. Do you want to discover more assets? Do you want to exfil data? Do you want to just shut down resources? Or does a threat actor just want to shut down resources? So this gives us a little bit more in depth of what you might not see some of it. I think it ends at exfiltration. Hold on. There it is. So there's the kind of the impact and some of those things, right? And we're gonna go through each one of these um, and more in depth, as well as spend some time where you can learn about each individual one and kind of see some things that either the user that's being targeted might see or the analyst might see. I'm going to try to also build some stuff out so you might be able to capture what the threat actor might see as well. I don't have a full like environment set up currently to showcase that, so I'm slowly building it, and I may go back and touch on some things just so you can see what the threat actor is looking at. But let's start off with reconnaissance. Kind of like I said, it's very similar to the reconnaissance, right? You're trying to obtain information about an environment. So let's kind of click on reconnaissance, and literally you're just gathering information, right? And that can be in many different ways. You can gain information through LinkedIn. I've seen it happen where somebody's personal T-Mobile account was compromised, and if you went to the person's LinkedIn page, they had their date of birth public because I wasn't friends with this person, and I was able to see that they had their date of birth public. They had the high school they went to, graduation year they went to, and so when you have a lot of these bits of information, I could go online and buy right some T-Mobile breach and get a phone numbers and get social security numbers, or maybe even look at other breaches. Maybe the breach that was due to, I think, Equifax or something. One of the credit unions was breached. And so I could buy that data for relatively cheap, maybe 20, 30, $40. And now I have people that I want to target. So this gives me some more information. So now let's say I have your phone number. Now I have, everything that I need to kind of gather, right? Then developing resources is kind of building that stuff out. So now I know who I want to target. So I can either maybe send that person a phishing email so I can try to see what password he might have. And then, maybe my goal is to steal his T-Mobile account, something small, right? Not even to breach the company T-Mobile, just this individual, I have something against them, for example. And so my goal is that. So I may develop, now that I have some more information about him, right? I have his LinkedIn. Maybe I look him up on Instagram and see what this person likes so I can build a targeted phishing campaign towards this individual and then start sending him different emails, and hopefully one day he clicks on something and then boom, we move on to the next one, which is the initial access. He gets a fish, it's very attractive to him, and then he goes on and clicks it, types in his username and password. Boom, I now have that information, and maybe either I have an automated system where as soon as it receives it, it automatically submits it to the real one, and now I have access. Execution, that's going to be, when you're actually running the malicious code, you're executing your payload. And this can be done multiple ways: PowerShell, command prompt, Python, JavaScript. There's so many different methods of execution that a threat actor might be able to utilize in their environment. Again, it isn't utilized all the time, right? Because if I'm just trying to access this person's T-Mobile, right? Maybe I'm not trying to do all these extra things. Maybe at this point, I'm just trying to establish some persistence, right? A way that I can establish persistence for this person would be to change his password, right? And now I have access to that person's password or that person's account whenever I want, or maybe create an additional user that might have access to there, right? And maybe I don't want it. Maybe I just want to create my own cell phone plan. Maybe it doesn't pay attention. Maybe it's on auto pay. I don't know. So those are just kind of the initial phases, right? So persistence is, as I've explained in the TikTok videos, is a foothold, how a threat actor may want to stay on, right? Changing the password, creating a separate account. That's going to be when it comes to like cloud environments. Sometimes it might just be a script that continues to run, or something that when you turn on your computer, it turns back on. Privilege escalation, right? Let's say the person whose account that I stole or that I managed to log into isn't the account manager. They just have access and they just help pay bills. They're sharing and they're mooching off their parents or something. This would be, now I need to escalate to either account manager or account handler or find a way to access the parents' accounts, right? So I'm going to have to escalate my privileges to be able to do some damage or add in a new phone line or change some phones, whatever the goal is, right? Defense evasion. Now this is how I am going to try to avoid being caught. When it comes to this environment, one, right, in the scenario that I'm giving, there might not be a way of getting caught. Maybe the person just doesn't check their account that often, but in other ways there definitely is, right? So one way I can do it is I create, as part of the execution, in there put in a command that turns off your antivirus or turns off your security systems or something along those lines. And that's going to be one way I can do that. Another way I can do that is maybe make my code not easily readable. And so that way, if somebody's analyzing it, they're like, what is this even doing? I don't know. Or maybe I try to make it seem a little bit more real, like go out of directories or file paths that are a little bit more normal, if you will, and kind of hide myself in real applications. Credential access, that's going to be accessing those credentials, right? That can be done in multiple ways. I can either obtain them kind of in a credential harvester kind of way. I can just brute force my way. So now I know I have an account that I want to target. I want to target the parents' accounts, right? So I have a phone number, throw in the phone number. I don't have a password. Maybe I don't want to set up a phishing situation for them as well. So I just start jamming a bunch of passwords. I have the date of birth for the kid. Maybe they use their kid's date of birth, right? Maybe I can find if their parents have social media and then start trying to brute force passwords or just run it against a list of commonly used passwords. Discovery is discovering other things in the environment. Maybe a threat actor is trying to breach your company and they're trying to look for a SQL database or a database of place where they can steal information, right? So that's going to be looking around, maybe finding another vulnerable device in your environment. So now I find that SQL database that I want, or that database that I want, right, or that threat actor might want. He's going to want to move over to it. And that's what we call lateral movement, is moving from one place to another. Some people will use this as a method of defense evasion. So they'll move laterally to another device, and because it looks like internal communication, they don't move in any way, right? They don't move left, or they don't think of it as anything bad or malicious, because internally devices do talk to each other. So they may not. So if an analyst or somebody's looking at it and they're not very experienced, they're like, well, this looks kind of normal. Or maybe you don't have a security team and the IT team doesn't really look at that kind of stuff. So that's going to be what lateral movement is. Um, Collection, that is going to be what it sounds like, collecting the information. I managed to laterally move over into that database, and now I'm starting to put everything into a file. Maybe I'm starting to archive everything into a zip file or a tarball, whatever, depending on the server style, right? I'm trying to move everything and collect it, and then eventually we'll get to the exfiltration point, right? So now everything's moved. So command and control, that's going to be whenever the bad guy or I am trying to maintain communication within that environment. So I'll have maybe some sort of listening device on my end that's going to be sending some signals to the server to make sure that I still have the ability to go in there. And that's also just kind of that connection where I am controlling it from my location. The environment is thousands of miles away or hundreds of miles, whatever the distance, and that command and control is going to allow me to kind of do things in the victim environment from my location. Exfiltration, like I said, we've already been packaging everything to get it out of there. Now we're going to pull it out of the environment. And then finally, we have impact. Impact is going to be the one that's most important to many people because that's going to be what does the most damage. So, sorry, let me move that over so you can see. Oops. So this will be shutting down systems, right? So let's say I pulled everything out of that server that I somehow, I know it's a different scenario, but I've pulled stuff out of that server and now I want to bring it down because I want to do damage to whatever this company is or whatever this environment is. So now I'm going to start shutting things down. Maybe with the execution of that commands that I ran earlier, it has a built-in option for as soon as exfiltration happens, start shutting stuff down. Maybe I want to turn it off so that way the web server can't see the SQL server or the database server, and now that's shut down as well. Or maybe I start ransoming the environment. So that's going to be what impact is. Typically, it's going to be anything that has an actual effect on the environment that will impact or affect the systems and so forth. So this is kind of a quick rundown of the Mitre ATT&CK framework. Let's go here. One quick method of reconnaissance that people do is Shodan. Shodan it gives us kind of network exposure or exposure that we can quickly find online. You can look up databases that might be exposed, and you can start searching kind of through these and see what you might find out there. So a little bit of everything. If you have an IP address that somebody wants to target, then they can go in here and type in the IP address and try to see if that's open. So that's a method of reconnaissance that you might want to do. And so let's say you go in and you start trying to ping it or interact with it and see what you can what you can glean on your end. And sometimes some people will like to do like a network scan of your environment and see what's open, what's talking. I'm going to show you kind of a network scan. It's going to be very different from what it would look like externally to what it would look like internally. Externally, you're going to be, I'll kind of just show you and I'll explain. So this is from my environment. This is kind of a quick ping sweep. And what this is doing is just seeing what's up, what's responding. Basically, it's sending a ping. And if it says, hey, I'm here, then it's going to respond and it's going to say that it's up. So dot one is up, and you're going to see this kind of happen over time. And so it's just basically just checking the status if something is responding. And then, like you said, you can see here that there's going to be some stuff within my network. Like I said, it's going to be different from external than it would be internally because you may not have the network, so it might look different. You're going to use a different tool, probably something like Nmap, or if you're using the GUI, ZenMap, and you're going to be looking at ports, trying to do some discovery and things of that nature. So this is kind of what it would look like. So pretty interesting. I thought I'd show you that. So let's get back to the Mitre framework, right? And initial access is going to be one of the biggest ones that I want to talk on because it's where most attacks happen is at this stage, or rather most, I'd say, I think it's like 80% or something like that. It's pretty cool. So I think we had looked this up. I had looked this up once, and yeah, it's about 80% of all attacks start with phishing. Is kind of the approximation. I think that's where's another report. A lot of them, you know, are initiated. Yeah, 80 to 85%. So initial access is super important because if you don't have access, you can't, attack people. So super important to understand kind of what it looks like and how to defend from it. I'm going to show two examples of phishing that I've noticed. One is more utilizing, and I'm not going to show you the exact, I'm just going to show you an article that kind of talks about it. And the other one, I'm going to try to show you something that I've built out that you guys can kind of look at. And none of it is malicious in any way, and it's just kind of, again, something I built to kind of showcase what a user might see, and then I'm going to eventually show you what the threat actor might see in later videos as I build my environment and more and more. So, yeah, this first one, this is gonna be a very common one that's kind of been happening a lot, and this is what is called a fake captcha. And so what'll happen is you'll be prompted on here, right? And everybody's used to these captchas, and you're not a robot kind of situation, and we're all used to it. And because we're so used to it and ingrained in doing the thing, we just start doing the thing. However, typically it's going to be like a jigsaw puzzle, or like, rotate something, find all the bridges, which one has buses, which one has stairs, right? And so, but threat actors have taken it a step further, and because people are just so automatic with it, you get to a point where you see this screen, and then you're going to click verify. When you click verify, what is happening is it is copying something into your clipboard. It's like doing a control C, if you will, or doing a copy, right? And then you're going to paste that somewhere, and then you're gonna click the verify, or you're gonna copy whatever's in here. You're gonna press your Windows R key, and then you're gonna get this little wonderful prompt, right? It's your run dialog, and then you're gonna paste whatever's in there, and it's gonna automatically do it, right? And they're kind of tricking you by having this "I'm not a robot" thing, but the part that you're not seeing, because it's at the front, you're not seeing this back half here. And this back half is the actual command. And usually what I've noticed, it'll say something like Mishta, or maybe it'll say PowerShell or pwsh.exe. Basically, it's calling these things. So that way it opens, right? Here you go. Oh, what? Shoot. That's not what I wanted to grab. I typed in pwsh.exe, right? And it gives us PowerShell. And so it starts automatically doing whatever it does. So a lot of times it'll be like something dot, like it says here, dot file, and it'll start executing the file immediately. Boom, you've already been compromised with the malware. A lot of it tends to be designed for info stealers, so it's going to steal your information as much as and whatever it can. So it is pretty bad, and it's gotten a lot of people to the point where I think countries have had to take additional steps to kind of try to prevent this from happening. So, but again, a lot of people have been falling for this social engineer. It says it's pretty sophisticated. I guess it is in a sense because like people are falling for it, but I don't think it's sophisticated because it's an easy fix. It's an easy stop, right? Here, this website kind of tells you on ways you can prevent it, how to stay safe, or just like don't just randomly copy paste things into your computer that you don't know what you're doing, right? So that's a big one. So, but let's move on to the phishing kind of scenario that I've kind of built. So here I've built this phishing email. So let's say this comes into your inbox and it's like, ooh, this is cool. I got, some stuff, right? So I'm going to teach you a few things about phishing. Again, this is completely fake. I use this from a picture that I got from an email from spam from the NFL. Some people like it. I just consider it spam because I don't care for or subscribe to this stuff. But I did grab it. I think I grabbed it out of my junk. But regardless, I made some modifications, right? So here, one of the things that you'll notice is when it comes to phishing, it tries to do some excitement and grab your attention, right? We've got something big for you, our newest deal, right? They're getting you excited, they're getting you amped up. It happens like this, not just in spam, but it happens like this in phishing things, right? Hello fans, again, some excitement. And it's hotter than ever. Don't miss out on these exclusive offers made just for our fans. And so this call to action, don't miss out, exclusive offers, right? That means you're going to miss out. And if you miss out, that kind of gives you, again, giving you a reason to kind of click on stuff. Most of these don't lead to anywhere. As you can see down there, it says example.com/deals. However, I did make some modifications and we're going to click on this mark as phishing. We're going to pretend that this is phishing. I've been seeing some people mess around with it. Just say if it's a phishing thing. And then you get to this, right? And let's pretend this is the NFL one or whatever. I kind of built this one a little bit, made some modifications. As you can see, I kind of used the Microsoft logo, but again, it says simulation. The whole point is to kind of showcase that, it might lead you to a website where you go ahead and type in your credentials, right? ABC 123 at AOL.com or something, right? I don't know who uses AOL these days, but if you do, right? I'm sorry if this is your email, I guess. I don't think so. And then you enter your password. Right? You click sign in. Right? This is kind of a simulation of kind of what was captured and kind of redacted characters or whatever. So this is designed to kind of show you what might have been captured, if you will. And the threat actor would receive this. And so what may happen is this threat actor will have an automated system on his end where it will immediately start trying to log in to your account, right? And now they've gained access, they're in your environment, and they're going to start moving on to the next steps, right? And when we look at, the next steps, it can be a different sleuth of things, right? They can start the execution. With that CAPTCHA thing that I showed you, that is immediate initial access and execution and possibly persistence because it is installing malware immediately into your environment. And so it'll accomplish a lot of these steps. And so now that they've gained access, they're going to try to make sure. The most important thing for a lot of them is to get that persistence. And that persistence can happen via execution in malware, or if it's in a cloud environment like Azure, they may not do that. They may try to create a secondary account, make some account manipulations, so change your passwords and stuff, maybe change your MFA. One that I've seen happen or I've read about happen as well is this one's a little bit more sophisticated, that what will happen is, like I was mentioning earlier, the T-Mobile situation, right? I log in, I change your SIM card to your T-Mobile account to my phone. Whatever phone I have, I give it that SIM card, or I buy a new SIM card and it's not registered to mine. My goal isn't to steal your T-Mobile account. My goal is to gain access to wherever you work. So now that I've made this SIM card change, I have that SIM card in my phone. So now your text message notifications come to my phone. You haven't noticed because you're not paying attention. Your signal stops working on your phone. You just think there's an outage from T-Mobile in your area, or maybe there's an outage from AT&T in your area. And these can somewhat feel normal at times because many times there's outages. And so you're like, well, crap, now I don't have any outage. You're just trying to figure out how you're going to call T-Mobile. Well, what's happening on the other side is I'm getting your text messages, I'm getting your phone calls, right? Or the threat actor is getting that stuff. And so the threat actor does this, and now they go in to try to log into your account, and they can't, or they do because they have their password, and you like to use the same passwords for everything. And so from that password capture that they did earlier, they got you into phishing as well. Right now they have their password. Oh, MFA, text message MFA, right? That second, authorization and or multi-factor, two-factor authentication. They now get your text message. Your account, your work account has been compromised, or whatever your account that's more secure has been compromised because you have a text message authenticator. So definitely super things to be concerned about and look out for if you're out there. And then, like I said, I'm going to slowly work on building some things to kind of talk about initial access. Excuse me. Let's quickly talk about, though, some key things you might want to look at. So if initial access. So for example, Azure, what they do is they have a impossible travel, right? So let's say you normally sign in from Australia, right? I'm breaching somebody, or the threat actor is breaching somebody whose account is on Australia, and now the threat actor using a VPN comes from Sweden or comes from Amsterdam, or I don't know, somewhere. I know one's a country, one's a city, but they come in from somewhere else, and Azure will automatically throw in an impossible travel. Hey, this kind of travel isn't normal. Please be aware kind of situation. And you may want to look out for those and be like, all right, is this a normal thing? If they're coming from a VPN and your company doesn't use a VPN, that's a huge red flag. Excuse me. Or if your company uses a specific VPN, another big red flag, right? You need to know your environment to know what's normal and what's not. So you may want to start taking actions at that point, looking and investigating that. So that is with like a cloud environment kind of situation. Another one is going to be if it is a device, right? They now have, or into your actual computer environment, workstation environment, and the ways that you'll notice that is going to be your sign-on events. Specifically, it's going to be the Windows logon events. Let's see if I can pull up event viewer here and kind of show you what I mean by these. So you're going to have your event viewer, and it'll kind of look like this. You'll have all these wonderful things. And then you're going to go to your Windows logs. You're going to go to your security logs. And in here, you're going to do a quick filter for this. 24,000 security logs. These are going to be the primary logs that you're going to want to focus on, by the way. Application, system, and security. Super, super important to know these. But let's go and do the event ID 4624. All right. Look at those. Now we have these 4624 successful authentications. You'll see event ID 4624, log on, success. Right. And then you'll get some more information about it. One of the things that you'll notice on some of these, let's see if details. Logon type 5, right? Logon types is kind of important, and it's not something that I have all of them memorized. Logon types. So for 4624, you'll have different logon types: 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, and so forth. And so what we saw was logon 5. This was a service. So this is going to be for a Windows service. Kind of think of the services that run in the background. For mine, it may have been let's say I play Riot games, so specifically League of Legends, Vanguard. It could have been a Vanguard, kind of doing some activity, or may have been my antivirus, Microsoft Defender. So those are some things there. Different types of logons are going to give you different types of, or different, the way the logon occurs, you're going to see it differently. If I log in with my computer or whatever and I type in a password, I'm going to probably see a type 2. If I'm logging into a shared or like a network device, like an SMB or something, I'm probably going to get a type 3. So these are different ones that you kind of want to look into. I actually go into full detail on each of the logon types in one of the videos that I have on TikTok, and I think I also have it in my YouTube shorts, so you can totally look at that one. But it is super important to kind of understand what to look for when you're in your own environment. Like if you don't use remote desktop and you're seeing a remote and interactive logon, a logon type 10, that's a huge flag, because somebody's remoting into your environment and you guys don't use it, and but for some reason it isn't disabled. So excuse me again. So definitely want some of those things you want to consider. Anyway, so thank you for watching. I'm gonna stitch all these up, and again, like and subscribe. And I'm not gonna be posting one next week because I will be out of town. But when I get back, I'm gonna start back into it. And again, thank you so much.